Okay, our next guest, I have to say, probably didn't enter politics to be a radical, but he is. And the reforms that he has introduced in the last 2 weeks and championed through the House and will continue to champion are going to have as fundamental a difference to New Zealand and the way in which it is structured as anything in my lifetime. Probably have to go back to Rogernomics for a time or for a piece of legislation or a set of legislation that is going to change New Zealand as much. The resource management reform was something that I can remember sitting in a caucus, the very first caucus, and we'd inherited from the Labour Party, and said, are we going to go through with this or not? And there was a big question in caucus about that, but decided to swallow and say yes. And it has very much set the social, political, environmental agenda for New Zealand for the last, God, 30 odd years. And the same also happened with local government reform, which started in 1989, the new structures that we've got. And I think you might argue now that both resource management law and also local government have got to the point where the public, anybody who's involved in the land, and certainly central government have lost faith completely. And as a result, that radical reform is on its way. Its architect joins us now, the Minister, Chris Bishop. Great to have you on the show. Thanks so much for joining us, Chris.
G'day, good to be here. And I'd forgotten that you would have been in that caucus in '91. That would have been a challenging decision because, of course, the RMA I think it passed its second reading and not its third. Is that right?
Yeah, something like that. We inherited it. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, and you had to decide what to do. And I was talking to Simon Upton the other day. He said you had a review and then made a few cosmetic changes and then proceeded. So that would have been a big call.
It was, but interestingly, it was because we didn't want to chop and change again. That was the biggest
Yeah.
argument. Been through this reform. Let's go. Chris Hipkins is saying exactly the same thing, Chris, to you. He's saying, many of the changes, we may tinker around the sides, but he's pretty much accepted that the reform direction that you're travelling is the right one to go down.
Yeah, and I, to be honest, that's a really welcome attitude from him, and I didn't necessarily expect it, but I certainly hope that would be the case. When we came in, we had quite a big call to make about because Labor passed the Natural Built Environment Act just at the tail end of their term, and we had a big call to make, and we did get rid of it straight away. It was literally the last thing that got passed, and it was so flawed that we got rid of it, went back to the RMA. Now we've got these new reforms, but I think the country's kind of over all this stuff. So I've been really pleased by the reaction to it. A lot of interest from a lot of people, and generally been widely welcomed. And it tries to fix where the RMA went wrong. And so we've tried to pick up on some of the things that no doubt you talked about in 1991.